Yo, welcome back to another episode of Mailbag Monday. We appreciate you sticking us in your ear to talk Bitcoin and talk markets. I'm Jack. I'm joined by my dad, Bill, and my best friend, Dylan. Guys, how are you?
I'm good, guys.
Happy to be here.
Good. Okay. I listened to the last episode and realized how long I dragged the intros, and no one needs that shit. So we're just going to get right into it. We always kick it off with Dollar Bill and my dad's thoughts on the markets. And we've got, let me open Strike. We've got a Bitcoin trading at $61,200.10, according to my Strike app, which is down, I think, 5% on the day and maybe 20% or so on the month, I think. So we're down. What is going on, Dad, in the markets and in Bitcoin?
Well, I'm assuming just from reading the news wires that this is a liquidation. There's a lot of seized coins. Is this maybe further of some government is liquidating seized coins, either like whatever Mt. Gox or Silk Road? There's been, through the history of Bitcoin, if this is any kind of a silver lining, which is almost impossible to do, waking up on a Monday morning, coming in $3,000 lower. But if it is any silver lining, the history of these liquidations have been some of the best buying opportunities. I mean, I think it was Tim and Adam Draper were the big buyers during one of these. It was in the hundreds, 500s or something. I think it was a Silk Road, or either Silk Road or Mt. Gox. I can't remember. But some government, the marshals liquidated a ton of Bitcoin. And I was hoping for, what?
Silk Road.
Yeah, it was Silk Road. Okay, I was hoping for a sloppy auction, right? Who wants to buy government Bitcoins? Particularly, back then it was kind of iffy. And so wherever the market was like 550 or something, I was bidding like 500. I was hoping that, it would get a little sloppy and I'd be able to get some cheap. But he bid over. He bid like 600 for and locked up the whole auction. And you did not need to pay over the market price. You could have filled that order right a little bit better, but then now you look back and I would say that's the best trade I've ever seen. Right? And he bought a ton of it. He bought how many Fidelity amount, tens of thousands of them. So anyways, right, here we go again. If this sharply lower Monday is the result of a government preparing to liquidate, it's probably a good buy. In retrospect, hey, who knows? He might be able to look back and have a Draper Redux buying opportunity. That's the best pep talk I can give you. Other than that, it's a $3,000 lower Monday. Yeah, I was hoping that this market would just chop around and wear out a little bit. But no, it looks like we got a liquidation event. I think it's a break to buy.
Yeah, I think Germany is selling Bitcoin. Is that right? Is Germany selling a lot of Bitcoin, and now the Mt. Gox creditors are getting their Bitcoin in a week? Is that the rumor?
The rumor, right, is that Mt. Gox coins are being distributed.
Yeah.
Whether those people that are gonna.
Does that mean they're gonna sell them? What is your take on that?
Whether they're going to liquidate them or why they haven't monetized that, because you can certainly, I'm sure there were ways, if my coins are trapped in a bankruptcy proceeding, there was sure that somebody will give me 70 cents on the dollar or something. So I'm not sure how much liquidation is going to come from this distribution. But yeah, somebody calls you up and said, "Oh God, you were in your uncle's will. I didn't even realize I've got 1,000 shares of that." Yeah, that's found money. You might just turn around and sell it. I'm sure that's why the market's backing up, is in anticipation, right, of a lot of old coins being distributed. Are, I don't know, what do you take a guess? 50-50 are going to get sold?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean,
no, I don't know. Like I said, there's lots of ways to monetize it too. If you wanted to monetize your trapped coins, you could have figured it out. So there might not be that much pent up selling. But
I don't even speculate on it. I mean, we have seen a lot of these in the past. There's Silk Road, there's been a lot of government seizures. Like really, Eastern European countries are always seizing criminals, like cybersecurity attack Bitcoiners, like the Bitfinex hack. There's been a lot of these seizures and then dumps, and so these don't concern me at all. In fact, I wasn't even going to bring it up. Honestly, it's just become so run of the mill. I think what's interesting is you're just I don't know. You got to give credit where credit's due. You've been right. Like you've said, the elevator's too crowded. This thing's not going to go up with everyone in it. It's going to try and bore you out and it's going to try and scare you out. It's just going to lull its way through. And then when everyone forgets about it or is frustrated, it's going to go to 100,000. And here we are at 61. So the fact that it is Germany or whatever is kind of lesser interesting to me. What's interesting to me is that you got that right. Right.
I appreciate that, but I think no, I was either wary out or scary out, but I was definitely thinking this market looked more like it was going to wear us out. I did not think anything sharp, but yeah, either way, one way or the other, like you said, this market, whether Fidelity, BlackRock, Larry Fink, ETF inflows, nation state adoption, right? This elevator wants to go to the top floor, but markets cannot accommodate a consensus. And as we said, this is as close to a bullish consensus since we've been trading this market, right? There's a lot of, just a lot of positives. And without, like I said, I get the idea the open interest just got a little stale. This is welcome to Bitcoin test is a 5% Monday. What 5% will live, 10% is a correction, 20% is a bear market, 5% is nothing. Yeah. Hopefully you guys are going to get some business. Hopefully your customers are anybody looking to buy the break. You just got 5% cheaper. I don't know. It's about the best I can do, but yeah, trading against government liquidations in the history of Bitcoin, they have been great buying opportunities.
Yeah. No, Strike. Our customers are Bitcoiners, so they're always buying. And so
I wish I had some cash in my account. Know, I'm done. I have no fiat.
The funny thing is Strike is always buying Bitcoin. So I think it's like 90% of our treasury is in Bitcoin, and we're a profitable business. And so we buy Bitcoin every single month. So we love this. Like I actually have a team with my direct reports, my executives after this podcast, and I'm going to tell them like, hey, how about everyone dial back any excess spending this month because Bitcoin's at 60K. We're going to buy as much as we can. So I agree with all that. Another thing I'm curious, because you're right. I don't mean to, for all of you guys that are new to Bitcoin, I don't mean to underplay. Listen, when your asset goes down 5% or 10%, I remember when I was there for my first time, but it is kind of, I don't know. I didn't even notice. I don't really care. These type of shakeouts don't even drum up any emotion from me anymore. What I am curious about is some of the new entrants to the market this cycle, like the ETF buyers. I am curious to see the inflows and outflows this week. Like how sticky is the state of Wisconsin, right? I assume that they're buying for the next 100 years because that's how pensions manage assets. But I am kind of curious to see, are a lot of these BlackRock inflows going right out the door as quick as they came in, or are these things really, really sticky? Because if we see continued inflows as the price goes down, then I'm going to get really confident of like, okay, well, we're just going to shake everyone out from Germany. And then as soon as Germany's done selling, this thing's going to go to 600K. Or is Wall Street speculating more short-term on Bitcoin via these ETFs, which would be weird. I don't expect that, but I am curious. You have any thoughts or opinions on the newer entrants? Like we know guys like Sailor aren't selling, but any of the newer money?
Well, yeah, no, I'll be glad to answer. Just, but you do know that is not my background. That's a securities. I'm more. I have 100% futures background. My overlap with securities is brief. But no, I just what you said. I cannot imagine ETFs are liquidating on a 5% lower Monday like this. I'm assuming that if you zoom out, we're basically taking whatever it is, liquidations are failed exchanges, whatever, seizures, genesis, and slow motion rotating it into BlackRock and Fidelity, right? I mean, you're just changing the open interest from, there are a lot of stale coins, that, seized coins, failed exchanges. And there's a lot of, professional ETF demand. And that's the way this looks to me. You're just changing the ownership. If that's going to cost the price 5%, that's not bad to roll over a lot of stale government liquidations. Back in the day, that used to cost 30% of the price before we could find. But now, I don't know. I think you've summed it up pretty well. And if that's going to take 5 or 10% off the price, I think that's a bargain. And get a lot of these old government coins back out of that overhang on the market.
Yep. Yeah, it does just clear the overhang. The overhang that will never clear, hopefully, is Satoshi's overhang. But I don't at this point. Yeah, but outside of that, yeah, you want folks that aren't actively participants in the network. Meaning, like, Saylor's an active participant, even though he's just holding coins, he still is actively making that decision. A lot of these governments that seize the coins and then are going through process of internally figuring out what department holds them, what department is selling them, what department has due process to take someone to court. It takes years, and those aren't active market participants, and you want those guys flushed out. You want the coins either held in someone that intends to use it as money to store or intends to use it as money to spend, but you want the coins with someone that is participating.
I'll tell you, this is another reason why, we got to get out and vote. Because if you had a Bitcoiner in your government, there's, you guys have talked about this on the show, why you could easily not only could we monetize our seized Bitcoins better than just dumping them, taking 5% off the market on Monday's opening, a Bitcoiner in the office is, looking for ways to be, kind of follow El Salvador, to not only not sell ours, but to use our resources and add and monetize it better. This is just the old, I told you, I bought a car from the Marshalls once. You can get great bargains, because they seize property and that's their mandate, is they just, got to offload it. But you tend to seize things that are stolen, like I'm sure my car was used in some robbery for something. Bitcoins, yeah, I would not. I like I said, hopefully if we get a Bitcoiner, one more reason why we got to vote this time. If we get a Bitcoiner in the White House, I don't think they would just liquidate seized assets like this. There's lots of better ways to monetize it.
I agree. You get Bitcoin at the price you deserve. And so, yeah. I got a few questions, though, because as this market matures, I do find it interesting. So I agree that the ETF buyers, these guys aren't day trading. These guys aren't drawing lines on charts. These guys aren't trading with leverage. However, one of the critiques of modern financial markets and things like ETF products are the passive inflows that they bring, because it kind of sedates and kills any life of a market. Like, the fact that people are afraid of volatility is fascinating, because volatility is life. Volatility is entropy. Volatility is real. And the fact that we have markets with no volatility is actually a sign of market suppression from central banks and from central controlled monetary policy. And so Bitcoin being a volatile market means it's probably one of the only free ones in the world. It probably means it's the only one with real life, real opinions, real movement. It actually reflects and reacts to the world around us, which is what markets are supposed to do and supposed to be, right? And so when you see passive inflows come into something like Bitcoin, what do you think about that? There's a lot of critiques that there's going to be like some sedating to the Bitcoin market, where really Bitcoin would move 80% one way, but because there's just massive endowment passive flows, that it's not going to move like it used to. I have my own opinion on that, but I want to hear yours first. I had to ask.
Oh, no, I agree. I think that, more ETF involvement is going to be less volatility. There was, we've always said I put the 18, where are we at? 18.5 million Bitcoin. I put them in 3 categories, right? Of varying degrees of how they're never coming back to the market. I think a third is lost or Satoshis, and I don't think those are coming. I think there's another third that are kind of like our position in multi-sig relationships that on off exchange devices that could come back to market, but I would need a really nice price and some time. And the other third is how we're pricing it. So I just don't think there's enough, given the steady, the ETF demands, that's you gotta without these government liquidations. I mean, that just makes sense to me that you're going to rotate a lot of this open interest from the stale, seized, coins from Bitcoin's, criminal past. That's going to rotate into the new class of, onboarding investment vehicles, ETFs, and nation state adoption. And if that costs the market only 5%, I just don't think that's that bad. That's a lot of rotation.
Yeah, I agree. And I also just wanted to spend a second and give everyone that context for all of the new Bitcoiners that Bitcoin's volatility has been decreasing. It's really also just like the law of large numbers, right? Like once you get the thing big enough, it's harder to move it, once it's bigger. When it's tiny, I could have personally moved Bitcoin 80%. But when it's $1 trillion asset, it's harder. It's $10 trillion asset, it's harder. So, but I think it is going to be fascinating to see. This is kind of the first post ETF drawdown and this is where people, and this is where people freak out because they're like, well, the S&P isn't down. Gold isn't down. I thought Bitcoin was supposed to be the S&P and gold and God and Greek gods combined. And like, what the fuck? You scammed me. And so we'll see what the ETF inflows actually are, because if they are passively adding, and this is just a monster arm of government printed currency and wealth that's just been stuck in assets that don't even deserve to be monetized, then it's going to be pretty fascinating. And to see it kind of crawl into Bitcoin and stabilize the market a bit and volatility dampen. Because I don't know, like 10 years ago when we were getting into this type of drawdown would have been like a 60% puke, and guys are getting arrested, and is the US government going to ban it? And now it's like, oh no, Larry Fink is still buying. Thank you, Germany, for selling at prices 5% discounted. We all appreciate it. So it's just, I don't know. We'll see what the info.
Yeah, I think 40% is my memory for when these things like Silk Road seizures or Mt. Gox liquidations.
You're saying like in a day, by the way. You got to clarify that. Like in a day, in a few days, this thing would, that's true, it would lose like half of its value overnight in some events, just for people that are getting into the space recently. Like I remember the Winklevoss first ETF. I think Bitcoin was trading at, so for context, Bitcoin, Mt. Gox, it hit about 1,200, 1,180 or something like that, and then fell all the way down. So this is in 2013. It hit a little over 1,000, then it fell all the way down to $200 in 2015. So 2-year bear market of just going down, and it looked like it was going to zero. And then so 2015, 2016 was a halving. It starts crawling up, and it goes from 200 to new highs, 1,800. And the Winklevoss had an ETF. So this is a post-halving, new all-time high. We're back. And the Winklevoss is going to get an ETF. This is in 2017. And it got rejected. And Bitcoin went from 1,800 to about 900, I think. We'll have to look this up. You guys can fact check me. In an hour, it fell 50% in an hour. So to say that this market is matured and is seeing passive flows and people that are holding it, I mean, real money is holding and monetizing Bitcoin. Like to say that an asset is being monetized doesn't mean that everyone in your social history study 101 class is using it. An asset being monetized is BlackRock, is S&P 500 companies, is, I mean, in nation states, that's monetizing an asset. And these guys aren't selling. These guys have wealth and money and passive flows, and they're actually profitable businesses, profitable people, profitable countries. So I don't know. That context is important. Anyway, I interrupted you, but when you say 40%, you're not talking about over a year. You're talking about over about like 2 hours.
Oh yeah. No, Bitcoin, yeah, no such thing. Well, the more derivative products or circuit breakers or whatever that more maturity, like you said, ETFs is certainly going to help with volatility. So, right, a government liquidation that moves 5%, yes, did used to move 30-40%. That is true.
Yeah.
I mean,
okay.
volatility is, I feel like it's important to know for early Bitcoiners too. Volatility is a feature of Bitcoin. It's a good thing. It creates great opportunities to generate wealth. That's like the entire point of the asset class. If you're looking for volatility, you want to run into the S&P 500, you can't fucking find it. It doesn't exist.
Right.
So I don't know. It dips down 5%. It dips down 20%. You should probably dip into your piggy bank and buy some.
I hope. Well, that's where you guys got to pick me up. I don't own an exchange. Are you guys? You guys will be able to tell in retrospect how your customers react to these things, right? Are they DCA?
Yeah. Our customers, our biggest days and weeks and months are always when Bitcoin's most volatile, and it doesn't seem to matter which way. So when Bitcoin goes down in a hurry, our customers are there, and Bitcoin goes up in a hurry, our customers are there. They're also there when Bitcoin is flat, but they're more like people show up when there's either opportunity or when they feel like the asset's running away from them. So, but I don't know. I mean, selling Bitcoin's a phenomenal business. It's like the best money ever. So there's always customers. Our customers are Bitcoiners too, so they're always buying. But yeah, on the volatility piece, it is just so fascinating to me because it's so logical why volatility makes sense. Like I would rather have a volatile asset that goes up 60% year over year for the last 15 years than an asset that isn't volatile, that only goes down. I don't understand. It's like, if you were, volatility is also direction, by the way. Like volatility by definition is movement. So if I needed to directionally go up, I wouldn't be able to without volatility. So it's like, I'm in the lobby. I'm in the first floor of a building. I got to get to the penthouse, but I can't be volatile. Well, then I'm just stuck in the lobby. I can't move. So it has never made sense to me why people shy away from volatility. It's like, do you want to be a winner? Then you got to be part of a volatile thing, or else you can lose passively in a non-volatile asset if you'd like. So I don't know. It is, but it is. I mean, central banking is about price controlling and suppressing the life out of markets, right? Every single financial crisis, they price fix markets and institutionalize that risk. And that's been the last, I don't know, since 1971, technically, right? Isn't that right, Dad? Yeah. So that's why people
done a lot more. I mean, I saw that happening really in real time, where markets never got the attention, the support, or like I said, we didn't even have circuit breakers. When markets, started to become unhinged, and then, well, obviously the '87 stock market crash, I don't think the government did anything on that Monday. It wasn't until Tuesday that Greenspan started hitting the news wires about, we're monitoring the situation. So I think they just watched it lose 20% on Black Monday without any intervention or circuit breaking or jawboning or anything that you see now. Now, governments monetary authorities are clearly much more active. Obviously, managing expectations or leaking, or Fed speaking constantly. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if we ever get into any type of sell-off, what the monetary authorities are going to do.
Yeah.
But no, you're right. Your point, you're right. They used to let it go. And they're much more interventionist now.
Yeah, it's just
I mean, the idea of mailing out stimulus checks, I still stands to me as right the before and after moment of the past years. Wait,
not
did that ever happen? We used to have terrible recessions. Nobody ever mailed me out a rent check. You used to have economic dislocations, right? And wars. Nobody ever mailed you stimulus checks. Hey, this stock market's not performing very well. Interest rates are dead in the water. The job market sucks. We're going to go ahead and mail you guys several $100s. And if that doesn't work, we're going to do it again. We never had that. I mean, I think that's a before after mark on how serious monetary authorities are about protecting purchasing price.
it's not even I was obviously agree, but it's not even that. It's politicians have also convinced. My generation grew up on the president telling you like, I'll fix the price of eggs. I'll fix the price of gas, as if anyone can control the price of anything. It's so fundamentally false of how markets work and supply and demand works. Like the price of eggs will change if the demand for eggs changes or the supply for eggs changes. I don't give a fuck who's the president, but it's so insane that that's how the world is perceived to go. It, depending on who gets elected, is going to determine your grocery cost and is going to determine the volatility in your life. And what's Bitcoin being so volatile for? How rude. That's just so rude of it. I'm supposed to have a non-volatile life, and the guy that gets elected to be president is supposed to fix the prices of my shit. It's so, I can't believe that that's how people think. So yeah, it's not even about the volatility and the stimulus and stuff, but even the rhetoric of Biden saying, didn't Biden buy a Super Bowl ad and say, I'm sick of all these companies changing all these prices. I'm going to get reelected and fix the prices of everything. It's like, I'm sorry. I can't even take you seriously. It's crazy. I mean, that's the craziest thing of all time.
Oh yeah, trying to redirect anger at profits at companies making profits is a non-starter, because by the way, right, that's not Jeff Bezos' company, right? The shareholders own it. And if he decided I'm going to be a good guy and help the government keep their CPI numbers down, no, I'm sorry, I'm a shareholder of Amazon. You don't get to do that. I own the company, not you. And your job is to maximize my profits, right? So there, I mean, that job owning it at inflation, blaming the war in the Ukraine. I know we've been over how much silliness. Let's blame your price hikes on the lack of wheat, and hope that people, hopefully you don't drop your kid off at Kansas, for homecoming this year, because there's plenty of wheat. It's fence post to fence post. Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Kansas, right? We can outgrow. I swear to God, I think we grow more wheat in one county of Iowa than they do in the Ukraine. But I know you gotta compare metric tons to we measure in bushels, they measure in metric tons. Somebody can do the conversion. We're not running out of wheat.
My generation is
for it, right? Because y'all, the monetary discipline has just gone out the window.
Yeah, but in my generation has been so I don't know. It's hard to describe the night and day, because hearing you say, like, I went through plenty of tough times. No one emailed me a check for my rent. My generation is so different. It really is terrifying, in my opinion. Biden had a Super Bowl ad where he had a bunch of chips and pints of ice cream. So really awful dog shit food that's making everyone fat and sick. And he's like, they're not putting enough Funyuns in these bags anymore, and they've raised the prices. If you reelect me, I'm going to make sure they're going to fill the bag of chips to the brim and also bring the price down a little bit. It's just so insane, and these people my age believe that shit. They believe that shit. And the whole, I don't want to get too political, but I was spending time with Dylan and Sailor's buddy in where the fuck were we? In Prague. And I will not indulge in what was being discussed, but the politics scene is just, it's mental, actually, that from generation to generation. I'm worried about my generation and the fact that people think that presidents control prices and that you need to be holding businesses accountable, how many chips they're putting in the bag, and that anyone has anything to do with the price of eggs outside of how many dollars we're printing and how many eggs we're producing. Anyway, it just
What do you know? Come on, whether the governments or particularly the White House branch of the government, what possible influence they could have on price inflation is not only ridiculous, but think about like in your company, you set your starting salaries, right? Well, kind of. It depends. It depends on the job market of what you have to pay to get somebody. You decide how much rent you're going to pay. I mean, kind of, unless, right? That is a lot of pricing is out of your control. And the notion that somebody that, the government could control, things, commodities, internationally traded commodities, that is just silliness. The thing that they can control, right, is the money supply, and as Satoshi and the purchasing power of their currencies, but as Satoshi so well puts, they have a terrible history of protecting the purchasing power. I mean, the temptation of fiat politically, it always wins over, tends to always win in fiat economies over.
yeah. I'm really having an internal struggle right now because I don't want to bring politics to the podcast because it benefits nobody. It never, but it's just, I am worried for my generation. I will say that because nowadays, there's the arguments over, what gender a 5-year-old is. And see, I don't want to get into it, but I had to say it. That's what's just on my mind, is just what my generation kind of is brought up thinking and debating, and we're not debating about anything. I gotta stop myself talking. It's a fascinating time where politicians and what is being debated, and they're convincing us that the price of your groceries is depending on who gets elected, and the civil unrest between each other, and like what people my age and younger fight with each other about is not about monetary policy, or it's about things like gender. It's fascinating.
Yeah, but I mean, it's all underpinned by money. Like at the end of the day, if you're brought into this world and your expectation is that you'll never own a house, you'll always work tooth and, your 9 to 5 doesn't cut supporting financing your own life. I mean, what are you going to do about that? You're just going to seek other alternatives to pour that raw emotion into, because it seems and it feels inescapable for so many people. And that's very real, and it's becoming worse and worse, right? We're not seeing, the president's campaign on the platform, oh, we're going to bring the middle class back. The middle class is dead. Unless you're a fucking, witchcraft, like it's dead, it's gone. It's not, and I don't think it ever comes back because the money's broken. There's no incentive to fix it.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know. I can't talk about governments on podcasts because it just pissed me off too much. It's crazy. I just wish there's such a delta between your generation, dad, and mine. There really is. And I feel lucky enough to have been raised by you and be part of Bitcoin, where I am not as hypnotized. But I mean, I was just I was at a wedding, great people, and I had a great time. But sometimes you meet new folks, you're like, hey, what do you do for a living and stuff? And you just realize, like, I'm on a different planet than these people. I'm on a Bitcoin standard, and I eat meat and eggs, and I don't know, they are not on a Bitcoin standard, and they think steak's unhealthy for you. So it's just, I don't know. I think fix the money, fix the world. I think Bitcoin can cure all, but yeah, we're early. And
I
just
think millennials are the first generation of people where depression is actually scaling with age, which typically you see a reversal of as people become more established, more comfortable, more capable. And we're the millennials are the first generation where that's not happening.
well, I think
That's a direct one-to-one correlation with money.
there's a lot of scary stuff, man. Like the cancer rates, the amount of young people getting cancer. So I just made my first order of like all natural toiletries, because there's the deodorants that people are using have gotten such artificial chemicals in it, and then if you sit in the sun with these chemicals on your skin, you end up getting skin cancer. So I've got all natural like tallow deodorant now, and soaps. I eat only steak and eggs. I don't wear sunscreen. I don't put that shit on my body. But it's hard to be healthy and avoid things like depression, avoid being poor, avoid cancer. It's hard. It is. And I mean, there's credit to my dad. I was eating steak and eggs when I was like 5. And I started buying Bitcoin when I was 18. So, I feel very lucky and blessed to have the dad that I have. But I know there's a lot of people that are never going to own a home, that are putting gross chemicals in and on their body, and have depression that gets worse year over year. Yeah, it's fucked up, man. It sucks. And when you go watch someone like Biden or whoever, Obama, Trump, any of these guys talk, you realize like, holy shit, this is a systemic problem. That it feels larger than anything that we can reasonably muster up and solve in a quick instance. So it's just, I don't know. I mean, it really hit me hard when I was shopping yesterday for toiletries. I was like, I can't wash my body with the things that they sell at Target. I can't go to Target, and Target's selling me seed oils and sunscreen and soap and deodorant that's giving people cancer. I'm in Chicago. It's just, and yeah, Biden and these guys. I don't know, whatever. Anyway.
Well, nobody is satisfied with the choices that the two parties gave you, right? Nobody wants to have to pick another, Trump Biden. And we're going to get a viable third party, right? Isn't Kennedy gone third party?
Yeah.
That'd be great. I'd like to have more choices. I don't trust these two parties anyways. They've never given me, I mean, what's the difference between Bush and Gore? I never figured that out. They both, right, bomb away and tax away and everything. I will say, though, that we have been here before. Ross Perot he's a billionaire, made a credible try to be a third party, get a third party candidacy going. It never works. That's just a two-party system. You end up with the two dull as dishwater, middle of the road. I can't tell the difference between either of them type of guys. Neither of them solve, I think the main problems, we want, obviously the monetary ones we discussed today, but I would say the main problem, another main objective when you vote is please stop like dragging us into every war, throughout the other half of the world. And that never changes. That never change. I told you, I missed mandatory Vietnam by about 5 years. So at least it's not, conscription isn't mandatory anymore. But I don't think it's ever pretty much stopped the entanglements. Senior was in Korea. I barely missed Vietnam. You guys, Iran, Iraq, and now Ukraine. That's what I'd be interested in, how you guys vote, because I don't see any really much difference
No.
between these
But
two guys. And so let's get a third party going. Let's get a legitimate, so you get a legitimate choice.
I guess. I've never voted, and
I know.
but I mean, maybe like more bullish. I don't want the podcast to end on such a bearish or pessimistic sentiment. The coolest part about Bitcoin is its opt-out technology.
Right.
I don't have to convince everyone that I'm at a wedding with or something to buy into this thing so that my life changes. I own an asset and denominate my life in an asset and live on an asset that is 63% year over year over the last 10 years we've been in it. 63%. That's fucking insane. And I'm out. I don't need to convince. No one can print and debase me, and no one can seize my shit. I got it right in my brain, and I can go live my life on it, and I can opt out. So
when you say, it's funny when you say that, because it reminds me, remember that George Carlin joke where he's like, well, you know how people say, like, he goes, I don't vote. And I go, well, then you have no right to complain. And he goes, no, it's actually, if you think about it, it's the opposite. I stayed home that day. I have every right to complain. You people voted for this nonsense.
Yeah.
So I agree. If you don't vote, yeah, feel free to use that joke when people blame, hey, you don't got any right to bitch about nothing. You didn't even vote. You're right, I didn't vote. Who was I supposed to vote for? You guys voted for this shit. I stayed home.
Yeah, no, it's just
I did something productive, right? I fucking play a word game. I worked a crossword puzzle. I did something more productive than you guys did. You know my frustration, and I don't understand why. We've tried several times. I know Ross Perot tried to get more than the major party choices, because I don't know, major party choices. I don't see any reason. There's no real motivation for me to vote.
Yeah, no, that I'm more so just saying that Bitcoin's been my vote. Like, I can opt out and vote, and no one can debase me. No one can convince. Like, it's also such a fundamental right to property too. You know, like no one can. There's no Bitcoin property tax. You know, like sitting in this place, they raise my HOA. Feels like every fucking day, and property taxes go up every fucking year. But with Bitcoin, it's such a fundamental right to property that I have in my brain that no one.
They're trying to put open trade. They're trying to tax open trade profits. So they're trying to tax asset. So no, you're right. So far.
Fundamentally speaking, it's what's mine is mine. I don't have to share it with anyone. I don't have to pay to own it, and they can't debase me. And then from there, it is crazy that I go on niche websites to make sure I get deodorant that isn't harming my skin and stuff. But I don't know. I feel like I have avoided being debased and all forms of like abuse, I guess, from the system or from government and stuff. And I did it. There's open source software. This guy that I don't even know his real name launched. So it is really opt out. It's opt out technology. And I don't. If someone walks in my face and say I disagree with you, I think Bitcoin's ruining the world. That's fine. You can disagree with me. I still get to gain benefit from it without your buy-in, you know? Like, I think that's not true for the gold standard, I guess, is the point I'm making. Gold bugs got to march outside DC like, we want the gold standard back. We want the gold standard back. And unless the Fed and the government go back on the gold standard, it's hard to benefit from gold, right? Like, they need the buy-in from the collective people. Bitcoiners I don't need your buy-in. I don't know. So I at least got that going for us. So yeah, my vote's been Bitcoin. And
well done.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Well, you guys have any Q&A or Dylan or any final words, thoughts? Get long, get paid, Dad. Any market advice for everybody? Just be patient. Don't sell.
No, like I said, I can't. The best spin I can put on it is seizures, liquidations. Governments have lots of Bitcoin. Bitcoin has a very, criminal past, and it's not just government seizures. There's also, bankruptcies, right? When that has been the history of all of Bitcoin's sharp breaks. They're rarely. I don't remember one that is macroeconomic, like, Fed raises interest rates or something that causes these type of sharp breaks. They're almost always seizure liquidation events, and they've always been great buying opportunities.
Yeah.
No fun to come in $3,000 lower openings, and like I said, that's 5%. 10% is a correction, so we're not even halfway to a healthy correction yet. It could go longer. I don't know. In retrospect, though, all of these liquidation events have been excellent buy opportunities.
Yep. Yeah. Just be patient.
Yeah.
Relax. And
Don't use leverage.
yeah, if you have an issue in your life because of this moment, then it's a learning lesson. If you were reliant on a $70,000 Bitcoin, then you're levered somewhere in your life, and not literal leverage. Sometimes people say, "Oh no, I didn't use BitMEX, so I'm okay." No, but if you were reliant on a $70,000 Bitcoin to justify the wedding engagement ring that you're supposed to propose with next week, then you are levered. You were levered. So you gotta, like, if this is stressing you out, then think about why and fix it. And by the way, too, the way markets are supposed to work is when financial and monetary conditions get tight on you, then you spend less and you budget more and you dial yourself back. That's normal. And so if you are feeling the heat, then there's a learning lesson in there somewhere. So understand why and just don't do it again. But outside of that, just be patient. Go outside. I don't know. Everywhere around the world,
Right.
it's out, right? In this
I
summertime.
got to update my old slogans. Bull markets crowded bull markets either wear you out or scare you out, or in this case, both. This market is going to do both. It was Dell as dishwasher, and then it just dumped. Yeah, it's tough to stay long. Yeah, but it was tough to stay long during any of these other liquidation events. And like I said, the best times I've ever seen, like the Draper type of trades, is when you take the other side of government liquidations and seizures.
Yep.
It's the best I can do. It's the best pep talk I can give you for your $3,000 lower opening.
Yep. Okay. Well, we'll see everyone next week anyway. So hang in there, Bitcoiners, ladies and gents. And thank you guys for listening. Any questions or comments or all that good stuff, please leave them on the channel. And we'll talk to you in 7 days.
Thanks, guys.
We crossed 10K. Thanks, everyone.
Oh, amazing. Thank you, guys. All right. Take care.